So there'd be no more federal income tax. There'd be no GST. There'd be no excise tax. There'd be no carbon tax. There'd be no more equalization payments where taxes, pension, and UI benefits included. We send $70 billion plus a year to Ottawa and get less than $35 billion a year back from the rest of Canada, or Confederation as it's called. So imagine the wealth and the prosperity of this province with all of that money remaining in the province, remaining in the provincial economy. Imagine Alberta with control of its own immigration, so that where we have cities that don't have enough water, don't have enough electricity, don't have enough housing, that we can say, hang on, no vacancy, time out, until we sort out all the people that are presently here and we accommodate everybody that's here, and have a sensible immigration policy as opposed to what we've been dealing with. Imagine in Alberta where we are no longer being subject to arbitrary federal regulations because somebody in Ottawa doesn't like the shape of somebody's hunting rifle, that they just automatically declare all of our hunting rifles to be prohibited, illegal, and subject to seizure, to be shipped to the front lines in the war of Ukraine, and other stupid ideas that have come out of Ottawa in the last several years. So I'm confident on those ideas alone, getting rid of, like literally if we get rid of all federal taxation in Alberta, the take-home pay and the disposable income of every Albertan will more than double. Think about the fact that every time a working man or woman goes to the pump to fill up their truck, instead of paying $1.60 for diesel, they're paying 80 cents, which is what it should be. I mean, all of these things need to be explained to the public at large to truly internalize what the benefits from an economic perspective of an independent Alberta will be. As well as and this is why we're going to Washington to talk to the U.S. administration with regard to their support for Alberta independence. From a U.S. perspective, why wouldn't they support U.S. independence or Alberta independence? President Trump recently announced at the joint session of Congress that he was fully in support of self-determination for Greenland. Surely we can hope that President Trump will also support self-determination for Alberta, because clearly it's in the U.S. interest to have a secure energy supply that isn't being subject to arbitrary regulation, production caps, emission caps, and all of these other things that Ottawa arbitrarily imposes on Alberta out of some misguided notion that anything we do in Canada is going to somehow offset all of the CO2 increases being put out by India and China, which dwarf all of our CO2 savings in Alberta and Canada on an annualized basis. So all of these things, would be dealt with within a common sense Commonwealth of Alberta, operating as an independent nation, where we're no longer subject to the idiotic whims of politicians in Ottawa who are influenced by people that belong to the investment club called the World Economic Forum, whose main purpose is simply to siphon tax dollars out of the hardworking pockets of the citizens of Alberta for the benefit of many of their get-rich-quick schemes like battery plants in Ontario and bug protein plants and all of the other foolishness that we've seen Alberta tax dollars going to subsidize. So for me, I see that this project is eminently sensible. I think we have more than enough support for it. Certainly the present government in Edmonton, the Daniel Smith's government, realizes that if there's 37% support for independence amongst the population at large, the support for independence within the UCP membership likely exceeds 60%. So, I think on that basis, the odds of having a referendum this year, thanks to Premier Smith, being forthright and coming forward and putting together a clear list of conditions for Alberta to remain in Canada, to be considered by the future federal government, to be decided, again, probably without Alberta's input on April 28th, we are going to have an opportunity to have a referendum this year. And I'm sure with all of us working together, we can finally have what we've all been working towards, which is a free and independent Alberta. So that's our goal.